So I've come down to the basement to show you how to tie this knot that we were talking about for your brake lines. I'm using a climbing rope, and as a replacement for the brake toggle, we'll be using this beaner just to make everything readily visible. So the knot that was tied was a double bowline with a fisherman's follow-up. And so in order to tie this, it's fairly similar to a regular bowline, which you may or may not be familiar with. We'll go ahead and pass a section through, and this will be, from here on out, for the remainder of the video, this will be the tail end, and this I'll probably end up referring to frequently as the load end of the rope, or the line, in the case of paragliding. So what we're going to do, pass some tail through the toggle, or through the carabiner in this case, and then we're going to make a loop, and then we're going to double that loop, so that what you end up with is two little loops like this, and just hold that together. And then what you'll notice is that the tail end is on top of this little coil of two loops, and the load strand is on the bottom. And this orientation is going to be important for the next step, which is passing the tail up through the two loops, then around behind our load strand, and then back down through the two loops. And then at this point, all you have to do is dress the knot, make it look all tidy. The thing I like about these bowlines is that they're pretty easy to tie, pretty easy to inspect, but really easy to untie, and relatively easy if you want to make some small adjustments to changing the size of the loop that you have attached to the toggle and so forth. The double bowline helps bind down pretty well, and it does a better job of not slipping or rolling. So now this is the completed knot. And then you have the tail to worry about. Generally speaking, it's a good idea to put some kind of backup in a bowline. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this around the back side of the knot like this, go up through that bite that's holding the load strand, so that when you pass it up through, you've got two running through this bite, and that's coming down from there, and then it looks like this from the front. So just to demonstrate that we're at the same point as we were before, with this tail end passing up next to the load strand, and the bowline is now ready for its backup knot, which the goal of which is to use up the rest of this tail without having to cut the line. Makes for easier adjustments later, and it looks kind of cool. So what I'm going to do here is run this tail strand, or the slack strand, up next to the load strand to a distance that I think is appropriate for the space that I need to make my fisherman's bend, or coil this rope around to make the fisherman's backup. So what I've done is gone up parallel next to it, and then gone around behind both the load strand and the tail once, and then I'll go a second time, and each time that I do this, it'll be progressively closer to the primary knot, and then basically I'll just keep, probably pulling a little bit of slack to tighten these coils a little bit, so that I don't have to dress it up as much later, and continue to wrap it until I've used up as much as I want. Once we've gotten to this stage where we've made a bunch of wraps all the way down to here again, back down towards our primary, we're going to take this tail and pass it up through the center of this coil. So it's running right parallel to the load strand again, and now this is starting to look like a finished fisherman's, with our excess sticking out at the top. To properly dress this, what you want to do is get all these coils tightened down. I find that the easiest way to do so is to sort of twist the strands in this, along the same direction that I coiled them. And what that's essentially doing is just passing the slack around the coils down to the tail end so that I can pull it to cinch everything down and have the finished knot.